Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me here today. Had a little bit of technical difficulties. So I just want to start off by giving a huge shout out and thank you to the incredible Moms TO team for putting together this amazing event. I also am going to give a shout out to Mikey, who right now is going to have to channel my presentation with me because I'm not able to control it on my end. So we're somehow going to work together to make this happen. And this is actually my very first time doing a talk like this. So it's throwing me a little, I'm not gonna lie. But I feel like, you know what? It's all about going with the flow these days. So that's what I'm gonna do. I also just want to give a huge thank you to Alana for giving me this opportunity to speak today at this event. As I said, it's the first time I've ever done something like this. And Alana, I mean, I'm just such an admirer of yours. You are just a powerhouse. I have no idea how you have managed to pull this off with a newborn and 2 toddlers at home during a pandemic. You are a force of nature. You are a true champion of women and moms. And I'm just so glad that I met you when I did. I actually remember the first time that I met you. It was at one of your probably first events that you did for Moms TO. And it was at Pizza Libretto. And I remember going and not really knowing why I was going or what I was going to be doing there. And I walked in and it was like 30 moms that were all sitting around with their babies. I did not have a baby. And they were chatting and hanging out and drinking wine and pizza. It was like 12:30 on like a Tuesday afternoon. And I walked in and someone offered me a big glass of wine. And I thought, this is like a mom's group that I could definitely be a part of. Like, this is my kind of mom's group. And I honestly wish that it had been around when I had my own babies. My daughter just turned 13 on Monday, this past Monday. I'm kind of still in denial that I have a teenager. And my son just turned 9. And so I'm kind of assuming or making an assumption that that puts me maybe about a decade or so further along in my journey than perhaps many of the people who are tuning in and listening to this today. And so when I was putting this together and thinking about what I wanted to talk about and what I wanted to share with you, I really just decided that it was, I wanted to share with you some of the things that I've learned or some of the things that I wish I was more aware of or had thought about in my earlier stages of my own entrepreneurial journey and my journey through motherhood as well. So I'm going to be real with you guys. A year ago, I was in a really, really bad place. I was in such a bad place, in fact, that I actually canceled speaking on the Mom Boss panel at this MomFest event last year, the day before the event was supposed to take place, literally the day before. And I felt physically sick doing that, like knowing that it had been planned and promoted and shared and people were counting on me to show up. But I just knew that there was no way that I could get up on a stage and talk about how great entrepreneurship is and was and how amazing things are going as a wife and a mom and a boss and a leader, because the truth was that I honestly felt like I was sucking at all of it. I was sucking at all of it and I was exhausted. I was like miserable and exhausted and a stressed out, burnt out, sad shell of a human being. And I knew that honestly, if I got up on that stage, I would probably start crying pretty much immediately as soon as anyone asked me any question about how I was juggling things or anything along those lines, you know, when you're just on the verge all the time of tears. And, you know, there was a part of me that thought, well, maybe I should get up and I should still do this. You know, maybe it would be okay if I cried in front of everybody. Maybe it would be good for people to see the truth behind the glamour of entrepreneurship. But I gave it a little more thought and decided, no, I don't think that was a good idea, because I would probably send anyone who is even contemplating doing their own thing or starting their own business running in the opposite direction. And I did not want to do that. So I sent an email to Alana. I let her know that I had a family emergency and that I wasn't going to be able to do the panel. I did not tell her that the family emergency was me. And and Alana was super kind and understanding about it, by the way. That's just who Alana is. So thank you, Alana, again for that. And I then proceeded to do something that I have never done in my entire life, which is that I wiped my entire calendar. So, work commitments and family commitments, social commitments, wiped. I cleared the whole thing. I canceled everything that I had on my plate. I was in like cancellation mode, and it was a good thing because I really just needed to take some time to really just think about, how after running businesses, multiple businesses successfully for over 20 years, I had somehow landed in this place. And more importantly, what I was going to do to get myself out of it. And so after taking a lot of time, or that whole week, to just really spend time thinking and writing and actually walking. I walked probably the equivalent of like 3 marathons that week. I don't even really like to walk, but it is helpful for, when you're in that mode of needing to get some clarity. This is really what I got clear on at that time. So next slide, Mikey. If you're there, changing slides. I don't know what's happening because I can't see anything but what I've got on my screen. Anyway, here's what I got clear on. And the next thing is click forward. I seriously lacked clarity. That is what I got clear on. I realized that my lack of clarity was at the root of all of my problems, and I knew this was a really big issue. And I also innately knew that clarity was really vital in creating a successful and happy and fulfilled life. And yet I had really never spent very much time thinking about it, and I definitely never learned how to get it. At that point in my life, I, from the outside, would be someone who looked like they had it all together. I had achieved a lot. I had a great husband and great kids and a great career, a successful business. And yet I had felt like I was stumbling through a fog for the past 2 or so years. So, taking that week away at that time from my day-to-day life was one of the best things that I could have done for myself. One of the things that I have learned is that it's virtually impossible to get clear on anything when you are in the thick of everything. And let's face it, as moms or partners or bosses or leaders or managers, we are always in the thick of everything. And the only way to get really clear, in my own experience, is to remove myself from everyone and everything for a period of time. And I will touch a little bit more on the importance of this later in my talk. And for me, getting clear really requires quiet. It requires stillness and reflection and thought and writing about what I'm thinking. That helps me get clear on my thoughts. And it really requires me to be able to take time to kind of feel connected to my body, because I've learned that my body, when I actually listen to it, provides a pretty remarkable path to clarity. It's like that inner knowing that we actually all have and can connect with when we have a little bit of time and space. So next slide. Question is, why is having clarity so important? And click to the next point. I liken clarity to like an external and internal compass. Next point, it tells us when we're on the right path and when we're on the wrong one as quickly as possible, so we can get our shit sorted out and, ideally do that before we venture too far. Next slide. So the question is, how do we gain clarity for our lives? And once we have it, how do we actually remain clear? Now, just for my own purposes, I've broken up clarity into 3 key aspects. It was helpful for me to think about it this way when I was putting this together. And just for the record, I am no behavioral expert. I am not a scientific researcher. I'm not a psychologist, although I did take a few psychology courses in university. This is really just what has worked for me on my own, journey and my own path and quest for clarity. So next slide. The first key aspect is what I refer to as clarity of vision. So vision means what you see, but it can also mean what you feel, or more specifically, how you feel in your vision. When I first started Mini Mioche, like many successful entrepreneurs, I started it as a side hustle. At the time, I had been running another business, a wholesale fashion agency, for 5 years. I had just had my first baby, and I noticed a void in the marketplace for really what I wanted to dress her in, which is just was super soft, comfy, unisex basics that were really looked good, but also would feel good on her skin, and ideally in neutral colors. And I just couldn't find it. And I decided that I would just make my own line of baby basics. They say, if you can't find it, make it, right? So that's what I did. I had what Michael E. Gruber, who is the author of one of my favorite business books, it's called The E-Myth, refers to as an entrepreneurial seizure, which basically means that I had an idea for something that I thought was really cool and might be interesting to other people. And I decided to just go full steam ahead with it without necessarily really thinking the whole thing through. And, this is actually a pretty common phenomenon for people who have an entrepreneurial personality. I would say that I am sometimes referred to as a visionary person. And I don't mean that in a Steve Jobs, Elon Musk visionary person type way. I'm definitely not that. But what I mean by that is I can see things in my mind. And that's actually a really important trait for a successful entrepreneur. But what I realize is that just because I could see things in my mind, I could see what I wanted to create and what the product might look like, or what the colors might look like, or, that type of thing, did not necessarily mean that I had a clear vision. If I had had more awareness back then, I would have been a little more intentional about spending time, not just figuring out how I was going to get this business off the ground, how I was going to get Mini Mioche going, but, also figuring out what ideally I wanted this business to look like and to feel like, and more importantly, how I could see this business serving my bigger life goals, not necessarily just my career or business goals. It's actually pretty mind-boggling how many entrepreneurs or otherwise never really take the time to think about and get clarity on their vision for their ideal life. And not just one time, but on an ongoing basis. It is not a one and done type of thing, because things are always shifting and changing. And then we wonder why so many of us wake up feeling confused or lost, or unmotivated maybe, or just really unclear about what it is we actually really want. And the thing is, when you're unclear, eventually things start to unravel. I literally watched myself unravel for 2 years and didn't really know why, what was happening, or why it was happening. If I could go back to my early days with my business, I would create a success roadmap, AKA my clear vision. And that map would, for me, include both business and personal priorities, because both of those things are very important to me, as well as family, personal family. And, I realized that the problem when you lack self-awareness and you don't take that time to really clearly define your vision, and not just what it looks like again, but what it feels like, is that you can, very easily be taken off course. And because you have no map, you do not even realize you're off course. You just keep traveling down that road, and you're going, and you might start to think every once in a while, I'm not sure if this is the right way. So you might start to ask some random strangers, or maybe even some people for some direction, and they may or may not know what they're talking about, and you keep going, and then eventually you kind of stop and think oh my God, where the hell am I? Shouldn't I have been there by now? Or shouldn't it look different than this, or feel different than this? And it's at that point that you kind of realize that you've gone the wrong way, and you think, oh my God, I don't even know if I have enough gas left in the tank to get back from here. And this is typically where like total exhaustion sets in. This is an analogy that I am personally very familiar with. And, the good news though here is that if you can get yourself a map, getting back is actually a lot quicker and easier than you think. Clarity is a lot like rocket fuel, or at least like really good supreme premium gas. So next slide. How does one get clear on their vision? And you can click through, Mikey. This is just a PSA. This is just what has worked for me. So this might not necessarily work for everybody, but if you click through, Mikey, this is what's worked for me. I take some time away from everyone and everything and click again to think, to reflect, to write, and to gain awareness about who I am at this point in my life and what it is that I really want, and like what would make me the most happy and fulfilled at this stage in my life. If you click again, Mikey, it usually involves asking and answering a bunch of questions. And I just want to say that the following are some of the questions that I have asked myself and answered on my own journey. These might be not helpful for you. They might be helpful for you. You're welcome to use these if you would like to. But I just want to say this is a process I'm very much still figuring out for myself and learning about. So this is just what has helped me. So next slide, Mikey. These are 10 questions that I ask myself to help me get clear. So we're going to click away here. 1, you have to click if you haven't, Mikey. What do I most want to be in this precious life I have? Like, what do I most want to be? What do I want to show up in as in the world? And click again, number 2. Why do I want this? Why is it important to me? Click 3. What impact do I want to have? 4, what matters most to me at this stage in my life? And the reality is that this will change depending on what stage of life you're at. Like if you just had a newborn or you have a new baby at home, that might be the most important thing for you right now. If you are here and you have not had kids yet and you are thinking about starting something, that might be the most important thing for you right now. You might want to spend this time building your business or building your career or building your relationships. That could be it. So it's going to change depending on what stage of life that you are at. Number 5, how do I want to make others feel? Like, how do I want to make others feel around me? Next slide. Click through to number 6. What are my intentions or objectives with this business or job or project or initiative? This is a key question to ask before you start on anything, because I find it's so important for me to get clear now on like, why am I doing this? What is the objective or intention with me doing whatever it is that I'm setting out to do? And again, why is this so important to me? Number 7. Number 8, click through. What am I really good at? What brings me the most joy and gives me energy? What lights me up? What am I passionate about? Number 9, what specific areas of my life or business could I focus on that would bring me a sense of connection and fulfillment? And connection being really key to fulfillment. And then the last question, number 10, what would a successful life look like and feel like to me in 3 or 5 or 10 years? Like I'm a big believer in looking out in longer increments, because like right now I'm 45 years old. That means in 10 years, I'm going to be 55 years old. It's crazy. But I'm already thinking, okay, when I'm 55, like, do I want to be working full time? Do I want to live in Toronto? Do I want to have freedom, flexibility to work from anywhere? Maybe I want to be working a 3-day week. What would I have to do to achieve that vision for myself in 10 years? Next slide. Your answers to these questions should make you feel excited and motivated and enthusiastic, and they should really provide you with a pretty clear vision. They say, see it, feel what it feels like, and then believe that it can happen and you'll achieve it. And it really does work. And just for the record, I have to say that I never asked myself any of these questions or answered any of these questions in the early days with either of my businesses. And this is something that I've only really just started doing in the last few years to help me really gain clarity. If you can get, and you can go forward, Mikey, but if you can get really clear on your vision, the higher the likelihood that you will achieve it. And the reality is that the more clear you are, the more confident you will be in the choices that you make, because you know what your vision looks like. And that means that when other things come along and shiny objects or opportunities, you can say no to them or yes to them because you're really clear on whether or not they are aligned with your vision or not. It helps you avoid a lot of bad decisions and a lot of mistakes on your journey. Clarity. So do me a favor and take some time for yourself over the next week or so. I'm going to say by next Friday, October 23rd, because I'm a big believer in deadlines. To keep myself accountable, I need a deadline. So I'm going to say by next Friday, take a little bit of time if you are searching for clarity right now and answer your own questions. And if you want, you can use mine or you can write your own questions. But I think it will really help you on your own quest for clarity. So the next key aspect, and Mikey, you can go forward, for key aspect of clarity is what I refer to as clarity of purpose. And I came across this quote recently by Don Harold, who is an American cartoonist and author. And the quote was, "Unhappiness is not knowing what we want and killing ourselves to get it." And I saw this and was like, oh my God, I can so relate. And if I was in front of you live right now, I would get anybody to put up their hand who can relate to this, who's ever killed themselves to get something that they haven't actually been really clear why they wanted it or what it was that they were trying to kill themselves to get. So next slide. The question really for me is not just about knowing what I want, but why I want it. Like, what is the deeper meaning behind it? What is the overall purpose? I truly believe that everybody needs a purpose. So click forward, Mikey. The more connected we feel to our purpose or our why, the more in alignment we feel. And the more in alignment we feel, the better everything in our world tends to work. This is often referred to as like a flow state. And I can say that I've probably experienced a flow state at certain points in my journey and my career, but I have yet to consistently be in a flow state. So that's something I'm working on for myself. When I started Mini Mioche, I didn't really think a whole lot about my why. I just really wanted to see if I could make these like cute, comfy clothes that I wanted to dress my daughter in. It was almost more of a personal, like, can I really do this challenge for myself? And I hope that like, if I could pull it off, maybe other people would want to buy those types of clothes too. However, I would say that as I've been navigating my own entrepreneurial journey, I've spent a lot more time thinking about my why, or like, why I'm doing this, what my bigger purpose is, or my bigger mission is. And especially as it's gotten more challenging along the way. I realized that your why doesn't have to be some like big complex thing. In fact, often the simpler, the better. Really what matters is that it's meaningful for you. With Mini Mioche, I realized my why was there from the beginning, even if I wasn't so clear about it back then. And it's the same thing now, 13 years later. I just really want to help kids and parents feel good. We do that by making really soft, simple clothes that are really comfy, that kids look good in and feel good in. And we do it in an ethical and sustainable way so that parents, feel really good about where they're spending their money and what they're putting on their little ones. Next slide, Mikey. If you're struggling to figure out your purpose or your why, perhaps you can just start by answering these 3 questions. What in my life do I feel most enthusiastic about? And you can typically tell if you talk a little louder about it or use your hands more, or you get a little more energy in your voice when you're sharing about it with people. Question 2, what in my life makes me feel a strong sense of connection to other people? And connection is so key in your purpose or in your why. And the third is, how can I help, or how can I serve others? Now, these questions might not give you immediate clarity of purpose, but honestly, taking a little bit of time, just quietly reflecting on them and what's meaningful to you will definitely help you and start you down the right path to figuring out your why. And the last key aspect, Mikey, you can go forward, that I want to chat about is what I talk about is called clarity of mind. And this is probably, to me, the most important one, and the one that I personally have spent the most time learning about, because you can click forward, Mikey. It's not just about getting clear. Click again. It is about staying clear. And that's often the harder part because let's face it, there's just an endless number of things every single day that are threatening to take us down or at the very least make us foggy, especially right now. You know that saying, what you think about, you bring about. That saying is so true. And in my experience, the only way to avoid going down the black hole negative mind spiral that most of us end up in at one point or another, especially we entrepreneurs, is to develop some simple habits or practices that help keep you focused and positive and in a good headspace. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of mindset in our success, both personal and in business. And yet it's something that we're not really taught. And it's up until recently something that hasn't even really been talked about. It's like we were supposed to just magically have our shit together, even if we feel like our world is kind of imploding around us. I have a number of habits that I should say like habits in progress because they're still always in progress. But these habits have really helped me to help stay clear and focused and stay positive, especially during the pandemic. I only have 30 minutes. I'm running out of time. So I'm only going to share four habits quickly today with you. So next slide, Mikey. First habit, practicing self-kindness. Just being nicer to myself. I'm definitely a work in progress on this one. And honestly, I'm not sure why we're so hard on ourselves, like why beating ourselves up tends to be our natural MO, but like, man, it is so unhelpful. And as I've gotten more aware of this tendency in myself, I've also developed a habit to help combat it. And you can click forward, Mikey. I refer to this habit as the it's okay method. And you can click forward. It's a very simple method. All I have to do is notice, keyword here, when that negative talk comes up and instead choose to think other thoughts like, it's okay. You can click, Mikey, if you're not clicking. Sorry, I'm talking fast. I don't know if you're clicking. It's okay. You're learning. It's okay. You're doing your best. It's okay. You can't please everyone. These are the things I'm saying to myself. It's okay. We all make mistakes. It's okay. Now you know better. It's okay not to be okay. I stole that one from Demi Lovato. I like that song. Even just the simple statement, it's okay, is pretty powerful when it comes to combating negative self-talk. I actually quite often think, what would I say to my kids if they were upset about something? And then I just say that to myself. It's a helpful way to think about it. Next slide, Mikey. My next habit is meditation. And I know you've probably heard a fair share about meditation and mindfulness at this point. You might be thinking, ugh, tried it, I can't do it. I just want to say that if I can do it, then anyone can do it. And it's probably the thing that has helped me the most in these last very challenging years of my journey. You can click Mikey. It's helped me, click forward, develop a lot more awareness about myself, which is key for maintaining clarity. Again, click, manage my stress and anxiety better and sleep better. And that should be enough to sell anybody on doing it because honestly, who does not need more sleep? So if you haven't tried meditating, please try it. And if you have tried it and given up, try it again and again and again. Literally 5 minutes can make a huge difference. There's no wrong or right way to meditate, and it's like a game changer. So just give it a try. Next slide. Third habit, taking clarity breaks. You can go forward. A clarity break is my time to think and plan, and it's booked into my calendar ahead. The idea is to book it in ahead. And if I had done this more and actually taken clarity breaks when I was supposed to, I probably would not have ended up where I was a year ago. And I realize we all have mom guilt and boss guilt, and maybe you think you can't, this is a luxury, you can't afford this time. I honestly, you can afford the time, and it's free to take a clarity break. And it is so important. It's the most important investment in you personally, in your business or your career. And the reality is it's something most of us do not do. And, that's why most of us are still so unclear. So do me a favor, another one, and just book your next clarity break today. It can just be a couple hours at a coffee shop. That is a really good place to start. And this is your time. You can click forward, Mikey, to create and review or reconnect with your vision and see if it still lights you up in the same way. And click again, Mikey. Don't think of it as a luxury. Think of it as a necessity for a happy, successful, and fulfilled life. Last slide. I'm hoping I can just finish this up quickly because I know I'm pretty much out of time, but my fourth habit is being picky with your posse. That means being really intentional about who you surround yourself with. And I am really purposeful about who I surround myself with. I choose to have people around me who are positive, who have a growth mindset, who support me and have my back, click, 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 Mikey, that are cheering me on and reminding me of how awesome I am and how much I've accomplished and how capable I am. And they're usually on a mission and doing cool things of their own. You inspire them and they inspire you right back, and they're trustworthy. You can be straight and honest with them, and they are going to be straight and honest right back at you, even when it's not necessarily what you want to hear. And this includes your life partner or your business partner if you have one. Like I saw click through, Mikey, a slide recently that said this: ambitious women really only have two options, a super supportive partner or no partner at all. Click, Mikey. This is the truth. This is the truth. The road is tough enough. The last thing we all need is someone pushing up against us. So pick your people with purpose and make sure who's in your halo are the people who you want in your halo. So last slide, Mikey. This is my advice. Click through, choose the people in your life intentionally and with care, and respect them and be grateful for them and share your vision and your purpose with them. And they can then play a really key role in helping you to get and maintain clarity. So in closing, my hope for you all today is that you're feeling a little clearer or more clear than ever on why having clarity is so vital for your success, both in the present moment and in the future, your success, happiness, and fulfillment, and that you now have a few methods to help you get and keep a clear vision, purpose, and mind. Thank you.